Welcome, everybody, to the latest edition of the Ultimate Cleveland Guardian Show. Along with Zach Meisel, I'm Adam the Bull. And Zach, could things get any worse than they are right now?
Yes.
Okay,
They can always get worse.
I guess so.
A week ago, you could have asked me that question, and look where we are now.
It's a fair point. Could be a 17-game losing streak by next Monday. We'll see. Or 15, 16, depending on how many games they play. It's a rough time. We'll try to figure it all out on the Ultimate Cleveland Guardian Show. So, of course, you said a week ago, if we would have said that, and things obviously have gotten much worse, Guardians have not won. So I think it's the first time in the history of the show that we've gone a week. You know, last year by the second half of the season, we were doing 2 shows a week because the team was good and fun. But doing 1 show a week, this has got to be the first time that the Guardians haven't won between games. The Guardians have, in fact, lost 10 games in a row. Their last victory was an extra inning win against the Blue Jays on June the 25th. So it's been a while. They will, what do they get for their 10-game losing streak? They got to play the Astros, who might be the hottest team in baseball right now. And they got to face Hunter Brown tonight. Actually, Hunter Brown's going tomorrow. So they'll get, I guess, a little bit of a break before they face, the best pitcher in baseball in Tarek Skubal yesterday. And tomorrow they'll face a guy who's been a top 5, top 3 pitcher in baseball this year in Hunter Brown. They will get, I guess, a little bit of a break with the White Sox after that. But obviously every team in baseball, including the White Sox, the Rockies, the A's, everybody, the Pirates, are looking at the Guardians as a break because they have clearly at this point the most inept offense in particular in all of the game at the moment.
Where do we begin?
Oh,
I don't.
Wherever you want to begin, go ahead.
I don't know. Like people have tweeted us. Can't wait for the show.
Yeah.
Hopefully you guys go scorched earth and eviscerate the team. And I need the therapy session. And I've been racking my brain for 24 hours. And I don't know where to begin. And part of it is because we've been shouting the same stuff since before the 10-game losing streak because it looked like it was headed this way. Yeah. The things we're shouting in December and January that have been key reasons why this is all happening. I don't know. Like if sometimes I want to start with the players and just say that these guys aren't playing up to their potential. And then I'm like, look who we're talking about. And then I think about the manager maybe not putting players in the best positions to succeed. And then I'm like, well, look at the players he's given. And so then it's, okay, should I yell about the front office and all the misfires that they've had and how they spent the money that they were given in free agency on Sewald and Junis and Hedges and Santana and Bieber. And then I think about how perfect they have to be year after year because of ownership, and everything comes back to ownership. The point is there's just everybody to blame. It's a complete organizational failure of a season. It's one that I think a lot of fans honestly aren't shocked by. Like that's the issue is you, and I feel like a broken record at this point. This team was 3 wins away from the World Series, and no one is that shocked by a colossal losing streak in the middle of the season. What does that tell you? That everyone was like, yeah, I mean, you didn't do anything over the winter, and these are the players you have. Not surprised. Like, how pathetic is that after a season you had last year that we could all be like, it's believed that this is happening. So I just, what a precipitous fall, and there's 2 ways to look at it, I guess. One could be there's still, 75 games left, something like that, 74 games left. And so, there's a lot of things that you can look forward to in the second half, whether it's young players finding their stride or their rotation or whatever. Or you could think of it and say, no, there's 74 games left. I'm not sure how much I can sit through. Or you could look at it and say, hey, I've got my summer back. And it's still, we're going into the second week of July, and you can go enjoy the pool. It's like, there have been Brown seasons where by November, I'm like, hey, honey, yeah, you know what? This would be a good day actually to go Christmas shopping. Let's do it. Mm-hmm. And it's like therapeutic and cleansing of the mind because I don't have to sit and watch the Browns get their heads beat in for 3 hours, right? And like, go enjoy your summer, go grill, go cook out, go take that family vacation you've been putting off. Do whatever you need to do, and don't feel like you have to be glued to the TV from 7:10 to 10 p.m. every night, because my God, this has been absolutely miserable to watch.
You summed it up very well there. I want to jump on everything you said. I think to me it starts with maybe. I think a lot of times our expectations are built on this notion that things will just go well for the Guardians, even though on paper it doesn't look good. And that's not realistic or a sustainable way to win. I got on the Browns, as we always do. We always rip the Browns, deservedly so. In when they won and made the playoffs in 2023, right, with Joe Flacco. And going into last year, there were a lot of people thought the Browns would make the playoffs again. And I was someone who said, and I don't say this to pat myself on the back. I love patting myself on the back, but in this case, I'm not saying it to pat myself on the back because I've been wrong plenty of times. But I thought that the Browns would be under 500 last year, and a lot of people disagreed. And I said, the way the Browns won last year was not sustainable. And it showed itself, right? And I think when we look at the Guardians last year, you and I spent a lot of time at the beginning of the season saying, how's this happening? How's this happening? How are they winning? And then eventually it just kept happening. So we let that go. Why wouldn't you? You can't just keep saying that the whole year when the team is winning. But looking back now and thinking about the disaster that is this season, it really wasn't sustainable what they did. Like they mainly won. They got just enough offense and just enough starting pitching to go with a bullpen that was maybe the greatest of all time, certainly the greatest we've seen in a very long time. And because of that, they won a lot of one-run games. They were more games over 500 than almost every team in one-run games. I think they finished, I believe, 7 games over 500, which may not sound like a lot, but I think the best in the league was 8 over last year in those in one-run games. And so they won, and I didn't even look at their record in 2-run games, but I bet you it was really good too. They won a lot of close games that they edged out, right? They played great defense, and coming into the season knowing that for them to get what they did last year, that they had to have the greatest bullpen we've seen in a decade, elite defense, just enough hitting, just enough starting pitching. I guess we should have thought that maybe it wouldn't come together quite as well. And the bullpen's still good. They still have a good bullpen. It's still a strength of this team, but they needed it to be the best ever for them to have a chance. And it hasn't been the best ever. It's been good. It's fine, but it's not good enough to overcome. And then you take out Josh Naylor, who's your second best run producer, second best slugger, and you replace him with nothing, with a washed up Carlos Santana, who's, I shouldn't even say washed up. He's a serviceable player, but that's it. They can't. It doesn't sound like that. Somebody said to me, Jay actually said to me a few weeks ago, like, Santana's numbers aren't that much worse than Naylor, are they? And I was like, yeah, they are. Okay, so their home runs were close, but not their RBIs, not their doubles. Yeah, one statistical category, there wasn't a big difference between Naylor and Santana. But Naylor is a run producer and Santana is not. His on-base percentage when he's 40 and can't move it's not completely meaningless, but it's much less impactful, much less meaningful. And then, okay, you played great defense last year. Well, you take out your best defender. And again, Jimenez, completely flawed player, overpaid, all of that. But he had one strength that really locked your defense in. And so you traded your best defensive player. You traded your second best offensive player, certainly your second best run producer. You didn't replace them in any legitimate way. And your bullpen, not surprisingly, went from all-time great to just good, very good most of the time, but not infallible as it was. We didn't see any of these appearances like where Clase's gotten blown up this year or Cade Smith got blown up yesterday. We didn't see that. That never happened last year. And that was not realistic. So, yeah, the starting pitching's a little better than it was last year. They've had their moments, but not enough when the offense barely had enough and went backwards, and the bullpen had to be perfect. And so we can't, a lot of times we'll just say, like we say, well, it's the Browns, it's going to go wrong. A lot of times we said, well, it's the Guardians, it's going to go right. But their neglect, I'll say, and their inability for a decade plus to not develop or acquire legitimate offensive talent has all caught up with them this year. And this is the result of it. A offense right now that looks like they should be playing Little League and not the major leagues. That's how bad it is.
Yeah. So I think this systemic issue here, the thing that like leads to the tentacles that lead to everything else that we're talking about is ownership, and not even in a. I don't want to sit here and talk payroll. Like we do that all the time, and yeah, like it's a legitimate thing. It's a legitimate issue, but to me, it's timing, and it's also objectivity. And I've referenced this a bunch of times, but I really believe ownership just thinks things are going to be. I think they've fallen into the trap you're talking about, where we'll figure it out, everything will be okay, and this team doesn't rebuild. They don't tear down. They don't do what the White Sox are doing, what the Orioles did, what the Tigers did, what teams have done successfully in the Astros case, and what teams have done and failed and really set their franchise back maybe permanently. The Orioles are a mess, and like they tore down and lost 110 games for a while and loaded up the farm system, and it's not working right now. And I don't know where you go from there. So there are examples of why it works and examples of why it doesn't. And in Cleveland, they've avoided doing that. But what it does is it creates this culture where the goal includes a lot of hoping and praying and wishing. And that's fine. Like, it's hard to compete with the Dodgers and Yankees and Mets. But what that means is that when you get to that level, as they did last year, that's when you put the pedal to the floor, right? And they didn't. And I can understand if they thought, well, like they believed that the bullpen would regress. And that's partially why they spent on Junis and Seawald, which is a different question. And just in terms of evaluating players, that's a miss. But they thought the rotation would be better. And I understand why. Keep in mind who they were leaning on in the rotation last year. Carlos Carrasco had the third most starts on the team, I believe. So, you got to the postseason and you're leaning on Tanner Bybee on short rest, and you're really leaning on that bullpen. And they thought, well, Bybee and a healthy Williams and acquiring Ortiz and Ciccone and having Bieber back and McKenzie, don't forget about him. And you had some guys in AAA. I think they felt like the starting pitching would help cover for what the bullpen didn't do quite as well. The complete and utter failure is on the hitting side. And to not, part of the issue with we're never going to tear it down and we're just going to like try to retool on the fly and keep winning 87 games a year and hope to catch fire in October is you run into this issue where you're trying to develop hitters and you're trying to contend. And then you either get caught giving, Gabriel Arias 3 years of at-bats because you just need to see for sure that talent's there, or you give up on guys too quickly. And, Yandy Diaz is in Tampa, right? So that's what they've run into. And I think their record of developing hitters in general is super spotty to be nice, or just completely inept to be maybe more factual. That like there is no rhyme or reason, right? Like some guys, it feels like they pulled a leash on too quickly. Some guys, like they don't give enough of a chance to. Like, why is Kyle Manzardo not playing against some lefties? Why is he not playing against some righties? He sat Saturday night, knowing he'd sit the next day against Tarek Skubal, because God forbid 39-year-old Carlos Santana gets a day off, right? It makes no sense. And the reasoning is because we're trying to beat the starter. And I can't figure out what their plan is at the moment, because their moves don't reflect a team desperately trying to win that night. because otherwise you wouldn't have a lineup yesterday that had Angel Martinez 5th, Jonathan Rodriguez 6th, Will Wilson 7th, Austin Hedges 8th, and Brian Rocchio 9th. And also, it's not, trying to get the kids up and get a long look at, the long-term plan here with DeLauder and Manzardo and Kafis and whoever else. So they're caught in between. It's self-inflicted, and, it's setting them back quite a bit. Like, there's a path for them to be basically a typical Guardians competitive team next year. But are we confident that they're going to make the right moves and take the right approach to get there? Like, no evidence so far that they're either on the, hey, things are good for 2025 path, or, hey, things will be good in 2026 path.
And there's a very, like the Will Wilson call up and place him in the starting lineup yesterday felt like a real slap in the face to the fans. And obviously there's no intent there to do that, but that's how it felt. And that's how a lot of fans took it. And there's an attitude from the organization. And again, we've seen this from the Browns too, who have no business doing this, but you put up with it with the Guardians because they're successful more often than not. They've been successful. There's an arrogance from the organization. You peons don't know anything. We got it all figured out. And anytime they make a move that seems crazy to us in the public, they could just basically say, well, it's analytics or whatever. And you and I are certainly not anti-analytics at all. I mean, we understand it's a big part of the game. I get it, but there's nothing that you can point to. Every day when I tweet, why is Kyle Manzardo not in the lineup? Somebody will say, well, every once in a while there'll be a fan who will respond and say, well, he didn't come through in the clutch yesterday. He didn't come through yesterday. He struck out right in a big spot as a pinch hitter. Okay, well, that's pretty much everybody in the lineup. If you look at this team and say, who's having the best season, obviously it's Jose Ramirez followed by Kwan. If you had to pick who's having the third best offensive season, it's definitely Kyle Manzardo. It's not been great. It's been very spotty at times, but I expect a guy who's a rookie or a second. He's not officially a rookie, right? He played enough last year.
Mm-hmm.
So a second-year player, first full season in the big leagues, all of a sudden he's got to come through as a pinch hitter. That's hard to do when you're a part-time player. And he's on the bench for Carlos Santana, who's, close to being washed up, and a bunch of guys who are not legitimate major league players. At best, they're bench players. This guy's supposed to be your top prospect. Why on earth, when you have a lineup that is not hitting across the board, would he be on the bench? I would have him start every single game. And at this point, that would even include Tarek Skubal, because what is the point of sitting him? Why?
Right.
Why? It makes no sense to play Carlos Santana. It's crazy. And, Jose Ramirez had the DH yesterday. I don't care. Fine. Let Jose DH and let Manzardo. Well, but Manzardo was terrible at first for a couple of days. Well, maybe if you let him play first anytime the last 2 years, he wouldn't be so bad at first base. I mean, give me a break.
Yeah, so the day that Manzardo made those 3 errors, he was back in at first base the next day, and Stephen Vogt said, hey, I don't want him dwelling on this. I want him right back out there to prove that, like, we believe in you and keep his confidence up. Do the same thing with hitting. If he goes 0 for 5, put him right back in there. The list of players I want to see bat is super short.
Yes.
And he's on that list. And there are very few avenues where they're always balancing short-term and long-term, right? They're threading the needle, they love to say. And there are very few instances where those two motivations are parallel or they work in unison. Playing Kyle Manzardo every day is going to help you both immediately and in the future.
Right.
Like, he is a better option than whoever, Jonathan Rodriguez, Carlos Santana, like any of these, the word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
And that's also going to help in the future, because you need to know if this guy can be a legitimate middle of the order bat. It's the same thing with DeLauder. Like, when he comes up, do I expect him to completely rescue the lineup? No, Barry Bonds couldn't rescue this lineup, but I think he'll be better than whoever's replacing. And so that's going to help you in this year, and it's going to help you in the future because he's getting his feet wet, right? So it's stubbornness. It's It's having a plan and not deviating from it, even though, I don't know, you would think this is rock bottom, and you should, like, they keep voicing like, we're not going to make changes. We're not like, what? How? How can
Well,
you not make changes? You know why?
yeah.
Because again, the culture that's been established in this organization is one of comfort, right?
Yes.
And
Nobody
it
fears losing their job. There's no
no,
accountability.
there's none.
Yeah.
Whoever gets fired, whoever loses a job, whoever gets mad,
Yeah.
nobody.
No, it's okay to be just getting by. It's crazy at vote. What was it after Saturday's game when he goes, we're playing well. We're just not getting the big hit. What?
Or the small hit or the medium hit.
I mean, give me a break. You're not getting any hits. Yesterday, your pitcher gave up. Gavin Williams was brilliant. You were tied when Tarek Skubal left the game. And then you lose on a wild pitch, pass ball. Was it a wild pitch or a pass ball? I can't remember.
There's a lot of debate about that.
Yeah, I don't know.
They've lost 10 in a row. They've scored 15 total runs in those 10 games, and 6 came in 1 inning.
I know. Oh, that's crazy.
They've had 92 innings during these 10 games.
Yeah.
They've scored in 8.
Oh my God.
And one of those was the 10th inning yesterday where they had a ground out and a sac
meaningless
fly.
run. Yeah.
How about this one?
Yeah.
They have 2 All-Stars. Congratulations to Jose Ramirez and Stephen Kwan. They are deserving. Right. If you remove their production, the team, everybody else in the lineup, has an OPS of 610.
Oh my God!
For those who don't
know what that give it, the league average this year, I believe, is 711.
Yeah,
so that would be 100 points below league average.
They're hitting 202. Everybody not named Kwan and Ramirez. The hitter, in the league with the OPS closest to 610, is Ozzie Albies, the Braves second baseman. I think his OPS is 607.
Wow. I'm surprised he's having that bad year.
Well, Atlanta's, all their hitters are having down years. It's new hitting coach. Yeah. So Ozzie Albies, there's 157 hitters in baseball who have enough at bats to qualify, right? And Albies ranks 150th out of 157.
Right.
So the average hitter taking up 7 out of the 9 spots in Cleveland's lineup every day, all the hitters except for Ramirez and Kwan are equal to the 8th worst hitter in baseball.
That's amazing.
This is like how. So it's one thing to just assemble a lineup that just doesn't work. It's one thing to just be trotting out kids and playing for your future and seeing what happens. It's another thing to look at what's happening and just be completely negligent and say, well, we're not going to change anything.
Right.
We're going to keep trotting these guys out there.
It's insane that those numbers are just mind blowing. And what I don't understand about not calling up DeLauder and Kafis, and they could tell me all they want. I had somebody who I really trust in baseball say to me, DeLauder is having a problem hitting lefties. Like, he's a mess against lefties, and it's going to be an issue with the big leagues. And the same person said to me, scouts think Kafis might just be like a bench player. And because I was losing my mind about the Guardians and they were trying to calm me down. And I said, okay, maybe that's true, right? Maybe that's true.
DeLauder's hitting .417 against lefties, by the way, this year,
which I don't understand. So maybe they think it won't translate in the majors. But what is the downside if it doesn't? Let's say that this guy told me what is right. Let's say DeLauder, it's a fraud that he's killing lefties in the minors and that he can't hit lefties in the majors. And let's say Kafis in the long term is only a 4th outfielder or whatever, a backup player. What's the, like, if they come up and they both stink, okay, well, you're in the same boat you are now. I mean, I don't see the harm. What is it that's holding them up? Are they going to damage the psyches of Chase DeLauder and CJ Kafis if they come up now? I mean, if not now, when?
You're going to damage their psyches if you just leave them in Columbus forever.
Yeah. I mean, if you're CJ Kafis especially, and I know DeLauder's a bigger prospect, but DeLauder's missed a lot of the season. if you're Cephas, you got to be thinking, what do I have to do? And he's got to be looking at these guys, all these other guys that have come up and down a bunch of times and done nothing in the big leagues. And if I'm him, I'm pissed off right now. I'm like, why don't I get a shot? I've killed it all year.
Yeah.
And they don't give me an opportunity. I just don't get it.
I mean, Cephas, I think, is just going to be they dump Santana and Cephas splits first base and DH with Manzardo. Yeah. I know he's been playing some outfield. I had heard that it is certainly a work in progress.
Sure.
And they much prefer him at first. But okay, fine, whatever. DeLauder, there's no excuse. It is truly just sticking to a plan that they had set up for his building up the endurance, and he's playing 4 games in a row now. But again, I understand at the beginning they wanted the controlled environment. They wanted to be able to pull him mid-game if he's sore. They wanted to be able to keep him out, coddle him basically, and they didn't want to coddle him in the major leagues. But that's not where they're at anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And if you get to a point in the major leagues where it's like, hey, this guy, like, he's struggling to play back-to-backs because his body's not holding up or something, well, then one, you should have maybe scouted this better, like knowing that this was going to be an issue. Or 2, then you put him on the injured list or you send him back to AAA. But I just don't understand how the answer to how, like, this isn't just a team struggling. This is just who they are. And I don't understand how you see this and you just don't do anything.
Right. It's not like any of these guys did anything last year. I mean, except for Fry.
Is there anybody in the lineup who you're just like, I cannot wrap my head around the fact that this guy's not hitting?
No, 0, nobody.
Right. That's literally, that's the bottom line.
The only guy in the lineup that I thought would be good, but again, I'm not surprised, it's not like a shock that he's not, is Nolan Jones. I was high on Nolan Jones. I thought he was going to be good. He hasn't been, but I'm certainly not shocked that he isn't, because he wasn't good last year. I thought last year was an anomaly, and I thought he was going to be a good player, and it's starting to look like I was wrong. Fine. Okay. None of the other guys have shown you anything. I mean, again, David Fry, I didn't expect him to. I thought the first half of last year was an anomaly. And again, I don't expect him to be this bad. Like, I expect him to be, at least a part-time type of player. But, I don't know. He's a disaster. I mean, it's not bad. It's historically bad, as you pointed out. I mean, for them to, their average of the rest of their guys be, amongst the league worst players in the league, you can't compete that way. It's impossible. You can't compete when 7 spots, and I'm going to say only 6, because when Manzardo plays, I don't think it's 7. When you have 6 spots in the lineup that are essentially zeros, negative guys, negative value on offense, you can't win that way. All right, before we continue, we got a message from FanDuel coming up in a second, but first, I got to talk to you about Game Time, folks. Love Game Time, and you will too. If you've ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with friends or family, maybe it's a game day and you suddenly realize you want to be in the stands, that's exactly where Game Time comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last-minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, or even invite a bigger group to come with you. Game Time makes it possible. Game Time makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to first pitch, and they've got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and a lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying. Game Time is the official ticketing partner of Locked On MLB, making it easy to browse the app for exciting upcoming MLB games, including the Guardians taking on the Astros and the White Sox. Game Time has last-minute tickets and zone deals for big savings, like 10% off exclusive zone deals for FIFA Club World Cup matches. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONNFL. LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. All right, we go from Game Time, Zach, to FanDuel.
Yeah. These jokes are going to write themselves here in a minute.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action, so why not make it a little more thrilling? And with FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. Maybe there's some MLB bet
Mm.
that's just staring you in the face. I don't know what it could be, but FanDuel is the perfect place to try it out. Or looking ahead to the NFL season, college football, it's all right around the corner. It's almost here, thankfully, mercifully. If you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit fanduel.com/UCSS to get started. Boy, took a lot of restraint, not to mention a certain pitcher.
Yeah. I don't blame you. All right. Well, let's leave it there. FanDuel. We got a lot of comments from the fans. We got a lot of people watching the show. Before we get to the fan comments, obviously we've talked a lot about the team. We've talked a lot about the front office. How are you feeling about the front office? Like, I feel like they should be right now. I feel like they should be on the hot seat. That they've got this trade deadline and this offseason to right the ship. And if it doesn't happen, I know there's a lot of fans that want him gone. And I have a lot of respect for Chris Antonetti and Mike Chernoff. It doesn't give me any pleasure to say I think they're doing a crappy job the last few years. But I think for the first time in 15 years, I think they should absolutely be on the hot seat. And if they can't get it turned around this offseason, and I'm not, yes, the owner sucks and he doesn't spend enough money and he doesn't care about winning and he doesn't put his foot on the gas, and it pisses me off and it pisses the fans off. But the front office has known this, and that's within that they have failed miserably. When you don't have the resources other teams do, and they love to tell you every time Mike Chernoff and every time Chris Antonetti is on doing an interview, they love to tell you they're a small market team. They love it. Love it. It's a built-in excuse, but that's bullshit. I'm sick of that. So if they can't get the ship righted, and I don't know that they can, to me, they're gone next year. And maybe that's crazy to say, well, next year, I don't know. Should you just fire them now? I want to give them, and maybe I'm stupid, but I want to give them one more offseason, one more deadline, one more offseason to turn this around. And if they can't, to me, they should be fired next year. They should absolutely be on the hot seat. And the fact that I don't think they will be, it just is why the organization is where it is right now.
Yeah.
Say you.
I struggle with this one because I think there's a lot of things tied together and I don't have all the information, right? So there's going to be a change in ownership at some point in the near to mid-near future, right? So I have no idea anything about David Blitzer. I don't like, does he like long walks on the beach? Does he want to spend money? Is he going to fire people like Dan Gilbert used to? Like, I have no idea what this guy's preferences are and how to run an organization. And I also don't know exactly when he's taking over because there's some decision dates and stuff, and like been digging in on that. But there's also a CBA that's coming up that I know we hype this up and say, oh, there could be big changes every 5 years.
Yeah.
There never are. But this one has the entire industry scared and certain that there's going to be a work stoppage. And so I do wonder what things look like on the other side. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you should just wait and not do anything until 2027. Because I think a big problem with this organization has been they never show a sense of urgency.
That's right.
I think a big miss, and Bull, we talked about this on the big show last week, but Chris Valaika went and joined Terry Francona in Cincinnati, and you had a chance to completely redesign and rethink your hitting pipeline from the major leagues on down. You had a chance to go outside the organization and find someone who has been a part of a successful operation, whether it's the Rays or the Dodgers or the Brewers or whoever.
Yeah.
And come to Cleveland and come run our thing. And in Cleveland, you have job security
Yep.
and you have an innovative organization and a collaborative culture and all these things, blah, blah, blah. And instead, they hired internally and they hired a guy who had never done it. And I don't want to put this all on Grant Fink because I never want to put everything all on a hitting coach or a pitching coach, just like I never want to give, as great as I think Carl Willis is and like could be if pitching coaches could make the Hall of Fame, he'd have a great case, right? I mean, they can, but like
Yeah.
they never will. But he'd have a great case. 5 Cy Young winners, like maybe the face of the Cleveland pitching factory operation. But it's not all because of him, right?
Right.
And he doesn't want
Sure.
all the credit.
Yeah.
So I don't know how to assign. Like that's why I struggle here. That's why I open the show saying like this person's to blame, this
Right.
department's to
Yes.
blame, this owner's to blame, and it's like it you can spread it around, but they just haven't. They've been praised for their collaborative culture so much for so many years that I think it almost becomes a negative where you're not hearing outside voices.
Right.
You're not bringing new people into the organization to like shake the boat up a little bit. And it's not working. Like
That's
we
right.
talked about the lack of hitting development. Again, right field and center field have been a problem for more than a decade.
Yes.
And so they are just so slow to address things. And that's whether you're talking about a 10-game losing streak with a lineup that everybody in Ohio can see is not quality, or years and years of failing to develop hitting prospects. They had a team that was 3 wins away from the World Series. They had the number 1 pick last year. They surpassed 2 million in attendance for the first time since 2017. They had it all. They had new renovations that they were unveiling. Come check out
Yep.
the new stuff at the ballpark. Like they had it on a tee for them this year, and they got up there and they weren't even blindfolded, and they swung like they were 16 beers deep and completely whiffed. And so and you're right in that like there have been misfires, Junior Caminero trade, the Miles Straw trade. The fact that a lot of people were praising them for getting off Andres Jimenez's contract, which they handed out. A lot of people were commending them for getting rid of Miles Straw's contract, which they handed out.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's been a rough few years. And I think I need to know a lot more. I need to know their plan to get back to prominence in 2026, not in 2028 when Jose Ramirez is doing his farewell tour. Not in 2027 when Stephen Kwan is on the doorstep of free agency. I need to know their plan to get back to restoring fans' confidence in them by the end of the season so that fans can be excited about 2026 and you can start that path back to the good place you were in a year ago. I need to know that. I need to know the ownership's plans. I need to know what this might look like after 2026. And then I need to think long and hard about just the way the organization operates and if it's the way they should. Like I don't know. We have no evidence that it's you haven't won the big one, so there's at least a little evidence against it. And staying competitive is that's admirable, right? Like they're usually in the thick of things, and as you said, like we tend to give them the benefit of the doubt, but they're really testing even their staunchest supporters.
Yes, they are.
And
they have lost that, Zach. They've lost that benefit of the doubt. There used to be from all of us, we'd be like, Antonetti's good. Like Anthony and Chernoff, they got it covered. And that has been waning even with the good season last year. To me, it's been waning in recent years with their moves, and it's all come to a head right now. Because the diehards, as we talked about last week, the diehards, the one that live, eat, sleep, breathe baseball, those fans that have often defended the owner and defended the front office. They're fed up, and there's a lot of the casual fans don't care. The casual fans are now apathetic. They're the second Browns training camp starts, or maybe through the trade deadline, because of we'll see what the Guardians do in terms of the trade deadline. And we're not going to have time to talk about that today. We'll talk about it next week because they're absolutely sellers. The question is who will they sell? But once August 1st passes, that's it. I mean, those people are not paying attention to the Guardians, and I don't blame them this year. How could you, right?
No, and that's the thing. You eroded you were in the honeymoon phase.
Yeah.
And then you got divorced like 10 minutes after you got home from your vacation.
Ugh. All right, let's get some fan comments. There's a lot of them. We'll try to get to as many as we can. All right, Evan419 says shout out to my butcher. Thank you, Evan. My butcher will appreciate that. Buckeye guy, Cleveland sports is so depressing right now. Hard to watch this show when nothing is going right. Well, we're glad you were here anyway, Buckeye guy. It is depressing, but you know, what are you going to do? Eddie says, seems like once they knew the season was over, they wanted to try for a better draft pick next year. Yeah. Well,
so like, if you knew nothing about their situation,
yeah,
and you looked at the lineup they were trotting out every night and their refusal to call up promising prospects, would you think they're tanking?
yes, 100%. Ahmed says, I think we out-hit the Tigers in every game and still lost. Certainly the first two games. Not 100% sure about that. I mean, the Tigers went nuts in the 10th inning. They had 2 home runs yesterday.
On Thursday, they allowed 1 run on 3 hits in 10 innings against the Cubs. They
Yeah.
lost. On Friday, 2 runs on 7 hits against the Tigers. They lost. Saturday, 1 run on 2 hits against the Tigers. They lost. Sunday, 1 run on 1 hit through 9 innings against the Tigers, and they
I
lost.
mean, what are the odds got to be of losing if you told somebody just those numbers that you gave? You would assume the team went 4-0, at the very least 3-1. Something went crazy, they went 2-2. Nobody in a million years could possibly think they went 0-4 in that circumstance.
Cade Smith had allowed 1 home run in the regular season in his career.
Yeah.
And then he allows 2 opposite field to left-handed hitter. Like, just weird stuff's going on.
Brendan says the front office let the season die. Fans wanted to call up the young guys to get some life in this team. The front office instead rolled with the same lineups, and now the season is over. Evan419, shout out to Detroit and their fans for winning a regular season series against us. Feels like a big moment for them. Lane's home run off Scooble still hasn't landed. Maybe so. That was quite a shot. I don't think Lane Thomas had a big hit since. Let's see. T-Roz says worst offense in baseball. Tom, yesterday was pathetic. Evan, if I hear votes say we're hitting the ball hard one more time. Ahmed, we out-hit the Tigers in every game except game 3. Thank you for the super chat. Pick 99, legit could have 2 beers and your BAC would be higher than Hedges' average. Hedges is betting under 100.
Well, how smaller is the person consuming these 2 beers?
That's true. I mean, Austin.
He's hitting
Hedges,
115. Let's give him a little credit.
Well, he got a hit. Well, he got a hit in the 8th inning yesterday. When he got that hit, I tweeted out, "Hey, Hedges got his monthly hit," and I was exaggerating, but not by much.
Yeah, he's 9 for 78.
He's been to the plate 91 times. I've said for years he's the worst hitter in baseball. That is literally true. That's not an exaggeration.
Yeah, I mean, you just look at the lineup they trotted out yesterday. Yeah. Jonathan Rodriguez's OPS is 448. Even David Fry, 498. Will Wilson, 472. Hedges, 453. Rocchio, 445.
Oh, my God.
Like, it's insane. A lot of times you'll be like, yeah, you got 1, maybe 2 guys like that at the bottom of your lineup in May when you just haven't had enough reps. This is July, and this is the majority of the lineup. I mean, it's beyond pathetic.
Yeah. Grown Man Television says, I'm trading everybody. BKB, they've won with less so many times, it's finally caught up with them. Yeah, we talked about that. Austin says, Naylor is the worst catcher in baseball. And I thought he was a great defensive catcher. All the metrics said he was great last year.
I think I haven't checked in a little while, but I can't get past the 173 average.
Yeah. And that being the best of any catcher on the team.
Defensively, so he's been not great.
Yeah.
He's been great at framing. I guess overall the fielding run value is good.
Okay.
But the thing he didn't do that cost them yesterday is the thing that he has not been good at this year.
Yeah. B. Skrills, Jose's agent, is begging on his knees for him to go ahead and request a trade out there for real. Buckeye guy, I think Santana gets traded. Listen, even if Santana gets traded, folks, you're not getting anything for him. I mean, you'll get, an A-ball player who is not on any prospect list, maybe at best case scenario. You might get they might just have to cut him. I don't know if anybody's going to trade for him at all. Why would Boston trade for him? I don't know. He's not an upgrade for anybody. Let's see. B. Skrills. Oh yeah, the Blue Jays are officially the winners of the Andres Jimenez trade. I don't know that they're the winners. I don't know that there is any winner. Obviously, that was a 3-team trade.
Could be 3 losers in that trade.
Yeah. Jimenez has been terrible. At least he gives them defense. He's hurt now.
Spencer Horwitz, he's been worse than Santana.
Yep. And we haven't heard, there's nothing new on Ortiz since the suspension, right?
No, I don't think you'll hear anything until at least the end of the All-Star break.
Again, if they find credible evidence that those pitches were fixed, like he purposely did that, he's done. His career's over. He's going to be suspended for life. Buckeye guy Clase is still shooken up. It's not a word, but okay, from the Yankees last season. He's finished too. Clase's been fine since April. He's not been lights out, but he's been fine. And you'd still get a good amount for him in a trade. I think.
Are you all in on that, or are you? Depends on the.
You don't have to trade him right now, obviously, but if I get a good offer, I'm trading him. Yes, if I get an offer I like. Evie says, time to please bring up the youth. Salish with a $40 super chat. Thank you, Salish. How responsible is not spending for this debacle? How responsible is not spending? I'm not sure what that means exactly.
Well, I think every dollar is precious, right? Because they're just never going to spend what they should.
Yeah.
And I don't want to hear about the TV deal. And I don't want to hear about anything. Like they have saved in previous years.
Yeah.
And the whole point, and I've heard people in the organization talk about it in the past, where there are years where you pull back financially and there are years where you get a little uncomfortable. And it depends on your prospects of winning.
That's right.
And coming off an ALCS season, your prospects of winning are supposed to be good still. And they didn't do that. But there's also the fact that, how much of the payroll is tied? You got $100 million payroll, and 12% of that is Carlos Santana, and another similar amount is Shane Bieber, who hasn't pitched, and 4% of that is Austin Hedges, and 4.5% of that is Jacob Junis, and 7% of that is Paul Sewald. And when they have spent, they haven't spent well. Lane Thomas has given them nothing, and Lane Thomas is making $7.8 million.
Yeah.
So, it's both. Everything in this organization is a chicken and the egg. Stephen Vogt, you can criticize what he's done this year, and rightfully so. And at the same time, you can say, look at the lineup. Look at the people he had to trot out there yesterday.
Right, yeah.
And that's on the front office. And then you could say the front office deserves criticism. And you can't do that without also blaming ownership. So it's
they're all to blame.
Yeah.
They're all to blame. The manager's done a terrible job. The front office has done a terrible job. The owner's done a terrible job. Rick says, stop defending ownership. I don't know how we've done that at all. I don't get it. Michael says, I don't even understand the rage. This has been a consistent trend for this team for the last 6 or 7 years. One good year, one bad year, back to a good year. Maybe they'll bounce back next year with the same team. I don't see it. I don't see it.
Yeah, it hasn't. There are reasons for that, right? 2023. So 22, that was different. That team just caught fire in August and September. And so that team, remember, they were last in the majors in home runs by 1 million. They tried to address that with Bell and Zunino. They won a wild card series against the Rays. It's not they didn't go to the ALCS in 22. So them taking a step back in 23 was not as surprising. But also that team in 23 didn't do this, right? They were hanging around 500. They were a game or two out in the division, and then they pulled the plug at the deadline. That was different. And then in 2024, they went further. So I'd fight back on that.
Yes.
And I also like, again, it's how they're operating that leaves me unsure about what this is going to look like next season.
Absolutely. I mean, this is probably so their worst since Francona was manager in 2013. Their worst season was 2023, as you said, where they finished 76 and 86, but they were still very much in the hunt for a wild card legitimately at the deadline. They traded Savali, and then, they whatever. Jay was hot and bothered about that. But as of now, if you had to guess, do you think they win 76 games? Because I don't.
So they'd have to go what? 36 and 38?
Yeah. You think they'll be only 2 games under 500 the rest of the way?
Yeah, they could. I don't want to. I hate when people are like, "Oh, the schedule softens this."
Right. Yeah.
Like, again, like all those doormats you're going to face are looking at you thinking, "Hey, a soft part in the schedule." But because I actually think the rotation's at a really good spot, and I think just getting rid of some of the dead wood and calling up some kids is going to help.
All right, I hope so.
I'm not. I wouldn't. I wouldn't go to FanDuel and place a $5 bet and get $150 in bonus bets if my bet loses. I don't know if I'm going to go do that, but they could. Wouldn't shock me.
If they don't win 76, it'll be their worst season since 2012, which was the last Maniacta season.
And if they lose tonight,
yeah,
that'll be 11 in a row, matching the 2012 losing streak. That was when they went 5-24 in August. The longest losing streak in team history is 12 games. That was 1931.
Well, if they lose tonight, I'll be shocked if they don't lose 12 because they're going to face Hunter Brown tomorrow. So,
right.
I guess you never know. It's baseball. Weird things happen. Finally, Marty says this team is unwatchable until they call up DeLauder and Kafis. Forget about it. Yeah, folks, there's so many messages from fans. We've been on for almost an hour, so we're going to have to cut it out now. But we appreciate everybody joining us today. I know it's frustrating. We're pissed off just like you are. It's hard to watch, man. It's sitting and watching this team. Man, it's hard enough at home. I don't know how you do it at the ballpark, Zach, because at least I could, I could.
Hey, it's summer. The weather's beautiful.
Yeah. It's tough.
Yeah.
But the weather is beautiful. All right. Everybody have a great day. You're not in Houston. You're not on this road trip, are you?
I'm not in Houston.
Yeah, right. You're home. So are you going to Chicago again or no?
We'll talk about that later.
Oh, okay. All right. So 1 week till the All-Star break. Hopefully the Guardians will win a game in the next week. We shall see. We'll be back on a week from today. Until then, we'll talk to you all later. Thanks, everybody. It's the ultimate Cleveland Guardian show.